Welcome everyone to A Breath of Fresh Marketing. I'm your host, Melissa Psihudakis, and I'm here tonight with Mackenzie Sweeney. She's our productivity coach, creator of Mack Motion, and gifted tarot card reader. What's going on, Mackenzie?
Hello, Melissa. This is so exciting. I'm just excited to be here and share all of the little bits with you tonight.
This is so cool. And I'm really excited about tarot card stuff. So I don't know, maybe I can get you to do one for me.
I got you. Got the box of cards in the corner.
That's awesome. We're totally doing that. So thanks so much for joining, and really excited to have you here on the show. Can you tell us a little bit about your background?
Yeah. So to make me make a lot more sense, I'm actually going to take you back about 7 years ago. It was my graduating semester of college. I was an opera and jazz singer, trying to get a bachelor's of arts degree after changing my major 3 or 4 times. And it was Valentine's Day, and Valentine's Day happened to be a Friday night. And as the homecoming queen of my university, I was making my rounds, and I had a performance the next morning. So I was just saying hi, and I left a friend's house to go back home, and I said my goodbyes. And then I was going to walk across the street to go to my apartment. And as I was walking across the street, I started to feel car headlights get a lot closer to me. So close, in fact, that I had that thought that was like, is this the part where my life is supposed to flash before my eyes?
Oh my God.
And then I ended up hitting the windshield and rolled down the car onto the ground. And then I woke up. And this accident left me with a traumatic brain injury where I knew I was smart, but I literally could not find it in my head anymore. I was fluent in French. I was homecoming queen. I was in 7 organizations, and I couldn't remember something as simple as 5 numbers in a row. So if you asked me to remember your ATM code, your 4-digit code, no problem. But like a zip code, we had major issues. I completely lost my ability to speak French. I knew it, but I couldn't remember how I found it. And my emotional processing just went back to that of me being a teenager. So as a highly driven, independent woman, my identity was really shaken. My creative ability, my intelligence, really was lost. So I became so hungry. I'm like, I got to get this done. I need my brain. I need my creative energy. So with this traumatic brain injury, became very hungry for healing. And that's where I became obsessive about how can I reprogram my brain so that I can be stronger than before. And for nearly 2 to 4 years after this accident, it was by necessity that I needed to learn how to get more done in less time, because my brain truly had a limited output. I could only think so much in the day before my brain was like, no more, girl, you're done. So I really found the therapy and the support, and I found the mentors, and I found the research, and I dove headfirst as a guinea pig, and it worked. I started being able to remember things verbatim. I started understanding my own emotional healing on such a deeper level. And that was such a hungry vision that I realized, wow, Mackenzie, you are better than the homecoming queen you were, 5 years ago. How can we start to teach this to others? Because I am hungry for connection, and I love people. And we all desire to just be at peace and happy in what we do. And there was such a lack of that in the entrepreneurship world that I found the need both for growth and success, and also like peace and happiness and spiritual connection with self. So that is really how this came to be, and how I came to be is like, oh, you literally got knocked into this by this traumatic brain injury. But because of it, I understood my own brain on such a deep level and have such patience for myself, that if I can teach this to other people, okay, great. This is going to make the world a better place. Yeah.
Wow. That is an insane story you just shared. Wow. I was wondering how you were going to you were remembering a specific date from 7 years ago, because it's not easy to remember something unless it's something traumatic or something like super wonderful and positive in your life. And that's really something, because I wasn't expecting you to say that. So that's quite the journey that you've been on since. But you know,
It is. Yeah.
I was going to say, you were becoming more and more productive in your healing. And then you became a productivity coach. Yeah. So is there like a connection between the two, do you think?
Because I definitely think there's a connection. And I think when we say like productivity, it's like such a sexy buzzword, but really it was my genuine own need for healing. Like I remember so vividly, I had hit such a growth point post-traumatic brain injury that I was like, oh, I'm finally thinking. That I then started working like 60, 70-hour weeks. I was also like broke after traveling Costa Rica for 3 months. And so I was like, I need to make money. Let me work all the time. And I made that money and I was working all the time, but I wasn't sleeping. I was anxious. I was dealing with depression and anxiety that I'd never had before, thanks to this brain injury. So it was this productivity ended up falling into my lap because I needed it myself. Like it was my own journey of healing, and it still is. So I think that we teach that what we need most.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So you talk about creativity and why it's so important. What were some of the creative things that you loved doing as a child?
Oh my gosh. I didn't necessarily talk to people, but I would sing to them. Oh, yeah? I would perform for them. My little school report projects were always a production, using props from my house and having some kind of grand entrance. But I was a very musical, performance-oriented child. And I was also a soccer player and a like self-taught theater dancer. So soccer and music, and soccer and performance were like the two things that brought me so much joy as a child. And luckily I've been able to have like not a whole lot of soccer, but a whole lot of performance in my adult life that still to this day brings me so much joy.
Nice. So music, soccer, which I love both, so that's cool. Anything else that you do now as an adult that you did as a child?
Anything else that I did as a child that I now do as not a whole lot of people know this about me at all. I'm a writer as well, which is fun to think about. I haven't thought about this in a while. I have this, a lot of journal entries, especially from the first grade for some reason. I think this is when my conscious memory started kicking in. I tell it like, what do you want to be when you grow up? Oh, I want to be an artist. And I used to write creatively all the time and took creative writing classes as a kid and have a lot of my writing in journals and, final pieces. And that's still something that I do, but I don't necessarily publish. I utilize those skills in my job now, but that's not something necessarily that like I will say like, oh yeah, I'm a writer. That brings me a lot of joy. It's not something that I would say. And I love that you brought that up because it's just literally sparking so much joy. If you could see my smile right now, it's like, yeah, Mack, you're a writer as well. But writing and poetry were like two really big things as a kid, even in the first grade, that brought me joy that I still am doing now.
Nice. I remember writing haikus and stuff.
Yeah. The rhymes. I can free write and rhyme. Like I'm not a rapper and I could never be, but I can write it down and rhyme, and at least that works.
Yeah. Awesome. Definitely. So as an entrepreneur, there's always a point where you feel compelled to create your own path. Can you describe what your journey was like for you?
100%. So I was really lucky in a sense of like finding the right people at the right time. I was working as a historic brothel museum tour guide in Alaska for the summer seasons. And in my off seasons, I'd travel. And one of the seasons I happened to be in Costa Rica for a couple months. I met this really cool chick who was on her laptop for like 3 hours a morning. And then she'd be in a new country every 3 weeks. And I said, what do you do? I want to do that. And she was a virtual assistant. So I said, great, I want to work with your company. Started with the company, scaled really fast. And the two people who created this company, one was a productivity expert and the other one was a business efficiency genius and process expert. So I just sunk my teeth in full force and connected with both of them and found a kindred spirit in the productivity coach. I was like, I love what you do. And I learned so much from him. I ended up helping him recreate his own brand after splitting off with that company. And I had a couple of these moments because it was just him and I for a while. And we started scaling and employing other people. And he would bring in the contacts and I would fulfill the contracts. So I was traveling 15 days out of the month globally, Guatemala, Paris, all over the United States for these big contract optimization process breakdowns. And I realized the way that I was teaching a lot of this was my own work, how I was teaching a customer journey, how I was breaking down productivity, how I was breaking down culture and team optimization was my own. It was inspired by my mentor, but it was my own interpretation with my own experience and research. And I so specifically remember sitting down at a Genius Network mastermind meeting. And we had this hot seat round table where we each had a problem and we would share the problem and we would give each other advice. And my problem was, how do I increase my own influence when I'm working for the influence of somebody else? And that's when I knew I'm like, okay, we might want to do our own thing. And then it became another like by necessity. I was really clashing with the financial structure. As entrepreneurs, sometimes as CEOs, we can change the payment structure. And that was something that I was on the other end of that was not aligning with what I needed stability-wise. So by necessity, on July 4th, Independence Day, I was like, okay, here's my resignation. Thank you so much for everything. And now I am ready to literally leap off into the world and find my own and create my own thing. And it wasn't immediate. Like what I'm doing now took about 2 years to really become a concrete idea and a concrete launch. But it was these inklings of, oh, I'm the one fulfilling something. I'm the one teaching this in my way and I love it. How can I have more of this? But I have to stay in integrity with my boss. And I'm finding what I desire is not in alignment with him anymore. So I'm going to make that decision for me without a safety net.
Wow.
Oh.
And then you took the plunge.
I took the plunge on Independence Day. Very apropos, you know?
Yeah, that's perfect. I love that. So what initially attracted you to working as a coach?
I realized I really loved teaching people. I remember with this virtual assistant job that I had, I was also a manager and I taught myself automation, and database building, because again, nobody else wanted to take those tasks. And I'm like, I'm going to figure that out. Okay. And I call my dad, who's a software engineer, and I go, Dad, how do we figure this out? And I was on my way down, I was moving to Arizona and I was driving from Alaska to Arizona. And one of my clients was in San Diego. And I said, hey, why don't I stop by and I'll tell your people what we're doing. We're doing a big process automation space. And some people are going to have to shift their jobs. And I was like, why don't I come teach everybody what we're doing so they don't freak out about losing their jobs? They're actually getting promoted. So I came down. It was my first time with a whiteboard teaching people, hey, this is what we're doing. And this is how we're thinking about it. And I remember calling my bosses after that moment being like, I want more opportunities to do this, to be in front of people and to teach them. So I thought that was the role of consultant. And I realized very quickly that the biggest downfall that a lot of consultants that I've spoken with and myself have felt is like, you do all this work, but your clients don't necessarily use the work or do the work. So so I was like, okay, cool. I love the teaching aspect. And when I'm building, I can only build to a certain point, and then you gotta take it on your own. So I knew I wanted to be a coach when I realized I wanted to stop working with clients after I'd fulfilled a role. Like, great, I built that for you. We're good. No more Mack. And I realized, okay, if I want to continue to support people and continue to teach them, what is the more sustainable route? I can be a coach, because not only do I know this, block A, I also know block B and block C and block D. And I want to be here with you longer. And this is the title that's going to give me that ability. Right.
Wow. Yeah. I can see that just being, you feel like you almost run into a brick wall, and then you have to just figure your way around the wall, go over it, go through it, something.
Stick it down brick by brick.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So 2020 was pretty much an overwhelming year for everybody, right? And, a lot of people and companies and workers had to kind of adjust the sales, if you will. What are some of the biggest struggles that you noticed in yourself and in your clients during that time?
Huge. The biggest struggle, I'll tell you first of myself and then of my clients. The biggest struggle that I experienced shifting 2020 was a way more personal, energetic shift. My plate got very full very fast. Productivity being like, oh my God, we're working from home. And on top of that, going through a miscarriage within 2 months of the pandemic starting. Talk about like, ooh, full stop. Your body's done. Your emotions are done. You are 3 months into a new marriage. Girl, let's pause. So being able to honor that space was my biggest struggle of 2020, of like, how do I still be a CEO of a business that has that Productivity Accelerator, my main productivity coaching, started a month before the pandemic hit. So, okay, cool. How do we finish that while you're like in emotional turmoil, not just because of the pandemic, but because of these other big things? How do we do that? So that was a huge struggle. And I ended up putting like full break, full stop, finished my first launch and was like, great, you get 6 weeks, girl. You get this off time that everybody else has been bragging about. Oh, we have nothing to do. I would love that. So I ended up like really giving that to myself. And as 2020 continued on, really prioritizing rest and breaks and emotional well-being was my biggest struggle. The struggle that my clients really went through was one of two things. One, either their businesses were doing great and they felt guilty. They're like, oh my gosh, now people need my thing. Now they're really interested in this thing because of the pandemic, and I don't know how to handle it emotionally, time-wise. What is my capacity? How do I handle that? Right. Or they were overwhelmed and burnt out because of, again, the emotions of the pandemic and the workload that was on their hand. It made them realize that they wanted something more. So they wanted to figure out, how can I make that transition into either scaling my own business, stopping working for somebody else, and starting my full-time business in the middle of a pandemic. So those were the two biggest challenges that my clients over 2020 really were deep in, was that overwhelm of like, holy shit, it's working. How do I handle it? Or holy shit, I'm so tired, but I want to grow. How do I do that? Wow.
Yeah, that's crazy. And I'm sorry to hear about, the miscarriage. That's tough. That's tough. But you have this great energy and this great attitude, and you can just see how, you manage to just pick yourself up and you move forward and you persevere. So, it speaks volumes to the type of person you are, that you're not going to let anything kind of hold you back, hold you down. You're not going to let the negativity take over. And, that's just someone with a really strong will. So I commend you.
I feel that, girl. Thank you, Melissa.
You're welcome. So, is there a piece of advice that you would give someone who's having a hard time staying productive right now?
Yeah. Stop trying to do so much. It's like, I see you. I know how much you're trying to do. And the only way that you can do it is to do less. Right. And they're like, how do I do less? Take more breaks. Right. Because if I always go to, okay, what's happening on a neurological level? If you're stressed out, your body is in fight or flight, which is a whole giant nervous system that is affecting your body. And in the brain, what it's doing is excreting an excessive amount of cortisol, which is our stress hormone, which in small doses, we really like. Like cortisol helps us wake up in the morning, adrenaline. But when there's an excessive flooding of this kind of, I'm trying to be productive, you're in this stress mode, it blocks your short-term memory. So you're not taking in information, it's not staying with you. And you also have a hard time getting to your prefrontal cortex, which is where all of this emotional intelligence, your logical adult brain, that's where this lives. So it's a lot harder for you to creatively problem solve, come up with ideas. There is zero creativity when you're really stressed out. So for somebody who's really trying to be productive, you have to take more breaks. Because if you lower your cortisol levels, we lower your adrenaline levels, we increase creativity, because then neurotransmitters are getting connected that normally would not have been connected in the past. So it's like, Melissa, when you are in your zone, when you have like the perfect amount on your plate, you're able to like come up with ideas. But when your plate is super full, you're just worried about what's due in the moment. There's no capacity in the brain in that moment to imagine. So the key to productivity is stop doing so much in a day, and you'll actually feel more relief and get more done over time.
Well, I'm going to go take a break right now.
Go take a break for that drink right here.
What you got? What are you drinking?
I am drinking an old fashioned with rhubarb bitters, which is one of my favorites.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Big bourbon girl over here. What's your drink of choice?
Well, my drink of choice is actually Grey Goose and soda, but tonight I'm drinking a Truly.
Ooh, yes. Both good options.
Yeah, it's just the Trulies are easy and they're good with ice and, nice and cold. So yeah. So what are some of your own habits that you've created to help keep your creativity flowing?
Okay, couple habits. Number one, I have a buffer on my calendar from 2 to 3 p.m. every single day. I don't take calls and I don't fuck with that time. Like hard, full stop. I have clients that'll ask like, hey, can we have a call? Nope, we cannot have a call at that time. My brain does not work. And from 2 to 3 p.m., I am eating a salad and watching Netflix, or I'm eating a salad and taking a lunch, or taking a walk. I'm not doing work during that time. I'm going to I'm at my office, but I'm going to sit in a different chair. I might meditate. If it's not 1,000 degrees in Phoenix, I will go take a nap in my car. I take breaks because I know that my brain is going to do better if I take that break in the middle of the day. The other habits that I have for myself that keep me productive is I don't actually start working until 10:30 in the morning. I get up between 7:30 and 8:30 and I let myself have a morning. I'm a slow, groggy wake up. And this is a huge piece of what I study as well, is it's like, how does your circadian rhythm affect your output? Yes. So it is normal to be tired when you wake up. It is normal. So normal. So I give myself an hour to 2 hours to wake up, make my breakfast. And I don't necessarily have like a morning routine, like a list of what I do. My routine is creating the time. Sometimes I fill it with tarot card reading, like I do a card of the day and I'll do some journaling, or I'll do a Lacey Phillips unblock workshop, or I'll do an Abraham Hicks meditation, or I will sit and I will read my fantasy novel. But my ritual is taking the time, because if I can create space and time for myself in the morning, girl, you bet your bottom dollar I can do anything during that day with my 2 o'clock break. But my habits to keep me productive actually revolve around, when am I taking my time for me?
That's right.
That keeps me productive.
It's funny too, because I think about that with myself and my own businesses and how I've done things and how I've changed things over the years. And when I got up early in the morning and started my first meetings at 9 a.m. and all of that, it's like I felt like I was being productive, but I was actually less productive. And now I don't take any meetings or calls until 10:30. 10:30 is when I start dealing with clients and team calls and all that other stuff. But everything leading up to that in the morning is time for morning. I have a daughter, so she's 3. So, getting all that moving in the right direction, checking my emails, just kind of getting my day started, getting situated, getting structured. And that feeling of when a prospect would be like, well, could we talk at 9 a.m.? And I used to jump and be like, yes, sure, 9 a.m., 8:59, I'll be there. And then I thought to myself, why am I doing that when I could just schedule them for 10:30 or 11 or 12 or 1 or 5? And I realized that I was actually way more productive, and just, revenue increased 450% year over year by now doing things just like that. So I'm glad to hear you say that, because I feel like I'm doing something right.
Because, Melissa, you're doing it scientifically best for you. I'm a science nerd. I'm a neuroscience nerd. So there's a method to our genius madness of no, the day doesn't start at 8 to 5. It starts from at 10:30 to 1. And then we take a 2-hour break, and then we come back, and then we take a 2-hour break. And if we have more stuff, we'll do it then. So this goes back to Mackenzie's working 70-hour weeks because she's broke and needs to make money and wants to prove herself. Couldn't sleep, giant anxiety. And I think every entrepreneur who is building their business, or somebody who is in their career who wants to be a leader, has experienced this, right? Where they're like, I want this so badly, let me work more. Yeah. So studies have shown that we only have 3 hours and 53 minutes of focused productivity time in our brains every single day. Wow. And this is based on our circadian rhythm, our sleep rhythm. So just like we have a sleep rhythm at night, we have a productive rhythm during the day. And it is different for every person. However, we can categorize it into 4 different types, sleep types, which we call chronotypes. Okay. Right? And there are different percentages of the population, but essentially we have this little group of nerves on top of our pituitary gland. Instead of the scientific word, I'm going to just use an easy word, the circadian pacemaker, like the heartbeat of your day. Okay. We have these rises and falls of body temperature and hormones and chemicals that are on this roller coaster in a predictable pattern every day. So if you knew when those rises and falls were, and you matched your work to that roller coaster, you're using your brain in the best way. You're using your connectivity in the best way. You're using your creativity in the best way without having to try and muscle through it. So that's why when you woke up at 9 a.m., you're like, or you started your day at 9 a.m., you're like, I think I'm being productive with air quotes, but I'm actually more tired, or I'm not as productive, versus I'm going to start it at 10 or 11. This is the science behind that. When you're at a peak, let's use that work. But then when you're at a break, that's why I have my 2 p.m. because that's when my body temperature drops and my hormones and my cortisol all dip. And I feel like I want to take a nap. Go take a nap. I actually can get more done if I follow those rhythms. And there are ways that we can find those rhythms for people, which is super cool.
Yeah, that sounds super cool. And I'd love to know how.
Yes. With these chronotypes, these sleep types, right? We have 4 different ones, right? And they're animals, because everybody likes to have a favorite animal. There are lions, not tigers. There are lions and bears, dolphins and wolves. And a lot of the times people are like, oh, I want to be a 5 a.m.er. Let me try and be a 5 a.m.er. The reality is that's only 15 to 20% of the population, because you're actually born into your chronotype. And it has to do with where you're at in your hormones and your life cycle. So lions are early risers, 15 to 20% of the population. They are the bright-eyed, bushy-tailed. I can get up in the morning and roll out to my laptop, no problemo. They're done by 4. Yeah. They are done by 4. These people, productivity-wise, are also very detail-oriented. Okay. But their downfall is they're so detail obsessive, they get stuck in the decisions. They get so detail oriented, it's hard for them to move on, right? Yeah. Then we have bears, which happen to be 50% of the population. That is why the primetime cable news network is on at the time that it is. It's because of our rise and fall with the sun. Bears, that's why 5-hour energy exists. No shit. Like 2 p.m. hits, 50% of the population, their body temperature is dropping, or cortisol is dropping. But if you take a break, you have the ability to come back up from 3 to 5, right? Oh, my everything's joining again. So bears should not wake up at 5. They should wake up at 7 or 8, like your girl over here. Our productivity downfall is we're great at procrastination, man. Pro and procrastinator. So, but our productivity strengths are we're incredible team players, and we can be both big picture and detail. Like we're like in between big picture, detail. We can do it both. That's a huge strength. Dolphins have an upside down chronorhythm, which means where everybody else has their cortisol rising in the morning to wake them up, their cortisol rises at night. So anybody who feels awake when they hit the pillow, like they're thinking about the next day, they wake up at the slightest sound and they're ruminating about the future when their head's on the pillow. Those are dolphins. And dolphins are so creative and empathetic. Like they're doing jobs that 90% of the population could not handle. They are so creative, but their biggest downfall is analysis paralysis. If there are decisions on the table and they physically haven't moved, they're not going to make a decision. They're great leaders when they have some deadlines keeping them going. And when they recognize that they need to take more breaks in solo time because they're so empathetic, like they take on all the energy. And then wolves are nocturnal creatures, anything but the morning. They are not morning people. They start to turn their brains on right around like 11 a.m. They hit their peak times at like 6, 7, 8 o'clock at night. Then they have this creative zhuzh at midnight. So when you recognize, okay, 50% of my chronotype, my sleep type is my genetics. Can't change it. DNA is DNA. And then the other 50% is my age, my sex that I was born with, and the hormones that are going on. Teenagers tend to be wolves. So a lot of parents class with teenagers because they're nocturnal wolves. And then, seniors like 65 plus tend to be lions, early risers. Right. So your chronotype can shift, especially like menopause, perimenopausal, all those hormones are going to shift your chronotype as well. But it's really cool to see, okay, what's my sleep type? And then how does that relate to my productive output? And what are the productivity weaknesses that I can learn to strengthen with some outside tools and resources? So that's a huge piece of what I teach and what I'm obsessed with. That is one of the number one game changers, that if we can find that calendar and find that time for you, we're not going to add anything more to your plate. We're just going to make you more productive by matching up what you do with when you do it.
So freaking cool. Really. And I'm sitting there like waiting for the one that I think is me. And like you started talking about dolphins and I'm like, all right, yeah, it kind of sounds like me. And then all of a sudden you got to the wolf and I'm like, oh, I'm a wolf.
The other way that I put wolves is they're like, if you and I were, I'd be like, hey, Melissa, you want to plan a party? What would your response be?
Do you want to plan a party?
Yeah, you and I, we should plan a party. Do you want to plan a party?
Yeah, I'll be there. Let's do it.
So if we're planning a party, do you want to do the planning? Do you want to invite the people? Do you want to promote the party? Or do you just want to sit back and watch it happen?
I want to invite people. I'll promote it.
You're a wolf. Wolves are like the party promoters. They're like, hey, if you're in a friend group and you guys, hey, you want to go to Vegas? The wolves are like, Vegas, let's do it. Well, invite the girls, right? Those are wolves.
It's so funny you said that because many moons ago, when I had my 20th high school reunion, a lot of people in my, friend group, everybody was like, we don't really feel like going. It's kind of cheesy because, went to a couple other ones. They weren't so good. So I was like, I have an idea. Why don't we plan like a reunion, but it's a party, and we'll go to like the local like bar where we used to all hang out, and I'll invite like a whole core group of people and we'll meet up there. And my friends were like, all right, cool. So I was like, yeah, I got on Facebook and I started, messaging everybody. I'm like, hey, it's this time, this place, to be there, blah, blah, blah. And it like worked out really well. There was like 50 people that showed up. I was all happy. I felt like, hey, this was successful. It was awesome. And, I think about examples like that when you're talking about that kind of stuff. And I think about just like how my day goes. Like, I don't start with clients till 10:30 and team calls, and then I work until 6, then take a break from 6 to 9. I'm all about dinner, my family, my daughter. And then from around 9:30 till 2 or 3 a.m., I'm working again.
And that's your peak time, right? So if you can and with the wolf, like with your brain in particular, okay, cool. What are your productivity strengths? Freaking creative genius, right? You are so good at marketing, right? You're the promoter. You're the inviter. You're like, welcome to the club. The downfalls, productivity opportunities for growth, details. Details are not a strength of wolves. So if you know that, you can either delegate that out or learn how to love details. The easiest answer, delegate that shit.
You got me pinned. That is 100% me. And it's so funny because my husband, he's in finance, but he's like, you know what you're really bad at, I'm really good at. What you're really good at, I'm really bad at. And he's all, pay attention to details. I'll go, 0 to 60 in 2 seconds. He's like, but did you do this? And did you do this? And I'm like, oh no, I didn't think about that. And he's like, yeah, the details. So it's perfect though, because we're like yin and yang, and he helps me with that part of it, with managing work and stuff like that. But yeah, as far as my team goes, all of that gets delegated. And the funny thing is I'm a certified project manager, but I have 6 project managers that work for me because they're the ones that they do a better job. They're on top of their stuff. Yes, I have to manage everyone doing their stuff and all that. But at the end of the day, I know that I'm not going to be good at all the finite things like the details. I'm not good at that, but I know that,
You know who else was a wolf?
Who?
Thomas Edison.
Oh, yeah?
He was a night worker, right? Oh. Like being able to, with wolves are so good at inspiring teams because you have the ability to respect that, like, oh, a creative mind isn't going to fit in a particular structured environment. I know that because that's me. Let me give you the freedom and autonomy that you desire, but also inspire you in that way. Like that's such a strength of wolves is they are so good at that inspiration that an analogy I use is like wolves are able to, if you want somebody to build something, like build a ship, for example, don't give them the tools, make them fall in love with the sea. Wolves make their teams fall in love with the sea because they see the big picture.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Snaps for you, wolf. Yes. Wolf mama.
So what are some of well, first let's take a step back. I want to talk about your inspiration behind creating Mack Motion.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that.
So I was working as a waitress while building my business at the time, because that's what we got to do when we are business owners. We got to make sure the bills are paid while we grow our business. And I have this theory, right? And I think sometimes people forget that, like, it's okay, girl, it's okay to go back to the service industry in the sake of your future, whatever you need to do. But the biggest thing was I had this really awesome client at the restaurant that I worked at who was, he was an inventor. And obviously my name is Mackenzie. I go by Mack. Mack is a huge nickname of mine. And he would come in a couple times and I tell him about my skills. He's like, what do you want to be? What do you want to do? What else are you working on? And I shared with him, I do business process optimization. I'm a custom software builder and I'm really obsessed with this circadian rhythm thing. And he goes, you know what I think would be a really great name for you? Mack Motion, right? Because you create motion in people's lives. You give them a way to move forward. You give them an easy way to see growth. And my logo is this like circular arrow. So it's smooth, but it's linear, but it's non-linear, but it's motion. And I like the arrow, the curvy arrow, because it also incorporates such elements of feminine S curve and masculine linear arrows. So the motion is like, no, there is always forward motion. There's a great, I'm also a yoga teacher, and there's a great line in the Bhagavad Gita that says, no practice on this journey is ever wasted, right? So in business, your arrow might be curvy. She might curl back a couple times, but no effort on this journey is ever wasted. It is always going forward.
Yeah, that's awesome. Very cool. I was a waitress as well. Yes. You know what? I love hiring people who have a service mentality. That is 100% one of the things I look for when I hire people. If they tell me, wow, I was bartending, hostessing, waitering, I was a valet car parker, whatever it was, it's like perfect, because I know that you are used to putting the customer first. It's all about customer service, because I want for people to care about the clients. I want for people to care about the customer. So if you're just getting into marketing or whatever it is you're getting into, and you have that service mentality, I'm all about that. And, that's the same thing. That's how I started. I waited tables, when I went to school and when I needed money, and, I was a hostess. I did whatever odd job I had to do. And, that's what we do. That's what we do. I sold handbags out of the trunk of my car. People laughed about it, but you know what? That was that entrepreneurial spirit, Yeah. And so I love hearing stuff like that. And I'm like, yeah, you're saying things that just resonate, they really resonate. And that's really cool. And I love the name Mack Motion. It's awesome.
My husband got me he's so sweet, for my birthday. He got me this big neon Mack Motion sign. And I love how you said, like, I look for people that have service industry experience. Most of my team actually are performers or actors.
Really?
They have that kind of background in what they do now. And I noticed that pattern. I hired my 5th person, and I was like, oh, you also have an acting background. Oh, you also have interesting. I'm noticing a pattern. And I think the thing that with you saying, like, oh, the reason that service industry really aligns with what I am, you're used to putting the customer first. And I also think, and I so see you in, like, oh, I'm selling handbags out of the back of my car, and people used to laugh. It's when you're building a business or when you're learning to market yourself, that you're in it for the long game, and that the judgments and the ideas of other people are not what matter now. Right? They're going to see you in a year, 10 years from now, and be like, I wish I was your friend still, kind of thing. With I was an opera singer. I was a performer for 3 years post-grad as my job. People used to ask me, but what do you really do? And I'm like, I just do this. I just am a performer for 6 months, and then I travel. But when as hiring people onto my team that are performers, they understand what it's like to embody so authentically some human, some energy, some idea. And to be able to do that, you got to understand yourself. You also understand articulation. You know how to speak. You know how to communicate super, super well. And the people that are on my team, the cool part of actors and performers is that they're able to embody other people's voices, but with their own authentic energy. So with people on my team, people who sell for me, people who are my voice, people who help me write content or are an extension of Mackenzie's voice, I say, like, we create this voice together. We call her Little Mack, right? Because what you're bringing to the table is just as valuable as what I'm bringing to the table. So that we're creating this like super authentic energy online. It's not a character. It is a human. We're creating this together. And by having people who understand performance and acting, they understand what it's like to energetically dive into that. So it is authentic marketing, authentic connection. So especially with people who are looking to hire for their teams and looking to scale their teams, is finding a huge core value of themselves, right? That authentic piece of self. Like Melissa, you asked earlier, what's something that you did as a child that made you super happy or brought you joy? Looking back to those things, service for you, like, oh, I'm going to put people first and make sure that they're loved, like super giver oriented. For myself, it was that little performer in me that recognized that. And when you start to recognize, how do I show up in the world? What are these core values in which, and how did I embody that as a child? Like, oh, I was a performer. Oh, I was a team player. Oh, I was a solo sports person. Oh, I was an only child. Oh, I worked with siblings. But being able to see what values that you had, so that you can attract that team that's going to be able to either replicate, authenticate, and embody that voice of yours, so that your marketing and so that your business can grow.
Oh, that's awesome. And I swear we must be like, you're a sister from another mister. My parents put me in opera lessons when I was a kid. And I went to competition, the whole nine. I was so nervous. I hated it because I was so nervous to sing in front of anybody. Just like that fear of public singing, that made me want to die. It was just awful. I did it, and I pushed through it. I just remember getting that feeling where I felt like my throat was closing up and my face was getting so red, and I broke out in a sweat, and it was just awful. And I'm like, why won't this go away? And even when I started singing, that feeling, all of that did not go away. I just couldn't wait for it to be over with. And yeah, all these years later, I no longer have a voice. So, that's gone with
just lullabies for the daughter now. That's all that she gets.
That's all she gets. But it's just really interesting to hear that, like, you say so many things, and I'm like, huh. It's like that universal connection.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So in addition to consulting, you offer a program called Productivity Accelerator. So can you tell us a little bit about what that is?
Yes. Productivity Accelerator is a 90-day mentorship program specifically for entrepreneurs and creatives to master their time and energy so they can actually live a healthy work-life balance.
Nice.
So the number one reason why people's business goals are not working as fast as they want them to is because of a lack of time and energy boundaries. It's because they don't yet, they're operating with like level 4 business goals with like level 2 or level 1 entrepreneurship productivity, right? They're still in this go, 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 hustle, or they don't know how to delegate. So if we can fix the time and energy piece and add a little bit of expert communication and influence, they have the ability to not only be able to master their own schedules, which creates more time and space for creativity, energy, and exchange, right? Of ideas and businesses and growth. Then, so they go essentially from like, they want to get to level 4. They go to like level 6 after this program. So what we really focus on are 3 main pillars: time mastery, energy mastery, influence mastery. The thing about mastery doesn't mean you know it all. Mastery truly means I have the ability to understand, I have the ability to apply, get feedback, course correct, then learn more. Understand. It's this praxis, this circle. So mastery doesn't necessarily mean you know it all. Mastery means I can understand, I'm aware, I'm willing to apply, I'm willing to be shitty at it 2 or 3 times. I'm willing to then get feedback from a feedback loop of either people or things or my business. and I'm willing to make course corrections to make that a foundation. I extend my safety circle, and now I need to learn something new. So if you can get somebody to master their time, they have more space to take on more business. If you also get them to master their energy, they have more space to take on business. If you have them master communication, they have more space to take on business. So we really focus on these 3 pillars, not only in concept, but in application. So in this 90-day program, it's application only, and it's by invite only. So you apply and then you have a conversation with us, and we will only accept people who are at the level of commitment and at the level of expertise that we're looking for, because it is a more executive level program. And we also work with people from graduate work to people who are trying to hit 7 figures in their business. But these are such foundational mother skills that you know how to run your business. We know that. You're an expert in the field. We know that. But how can we shift how you're operating so that those things become easier for you? So it's a lot of neuroscience. And then we do a lot of integration and breakout rooms and concept and creation. So what I tell you is, like, you are going to have the schedule and the tools to work the most effectively for your brain. Because of that, the graduates of this program have had this strategic byproduct of like a leadership upgrade. So when people tell me, oh, I want to buy a house. Oh, I want to hit multi-6 figures this year. I want to quit my job and start my own business. We've had 3 people start podcasts. We've had 2 people buy a house in the middle of the program. We've had people quit their jobs, start their new businesses, and hit 20K months within 1 month of graduating. We have had every single person have some kind of leadership upgrade because they mastered their time and their energy and their influence, and they got the practice. Because it's really scary to learn something and then not use it. We get those nerves out during the program. So it's a group centric. So we learn from each other. And it is an accelerator. So we accelerate your greatness by accelerating your bullshit. We take care of it with tools that you can use that I've been using for 7 years. Still to this day, use all of these tools. So it is it's a new foundation for people who are really looking to hit that kind of quantum leap.
Wow, that's awesome. That's very exciting and very intriguing too. So I like that. Very cool.
We have fun. We have a little bit of fun.
But that's awesome as far as the results of what you're seeing with people who have signed up with you to take this course, and all these great things that have happened in the time that they're spending with you in 90 days, right?
Yeah.
Just 90 days.
90 days.
3 months, change your life.
If I told you, Melissa, that if you gave me 90 days, 3 months, right, from here until beginning of summer, if we had a conversation now until then, and you and I worked together for 90 days, you would be 40% less stressed than you are now. What would that mean for your family? If you were 22% better at time management, what would that mean for your team? If you felt 23% better in your own influence, what would that mean for your marketing and your numbers? If you had more energy management and mastery by 10%, if you had 10% more energy mastery where you didn't take on people's energy as much, what would that mean for your own peace of mind? What would you be able to do with that? That is what we're able to create. Wow. The other piece is there's a cool study done by the American Talent and Development Agency on accountability. So if somebody says, I'm going to do this thing by this date, they are 25% likely to fulfill that idea. With the accountability that we provide over the last year, we have seen that our students have an 86 to 92% fulfillment rate on when they say they're going to do a thing. They're 82% likely plus to actually fulfill that. So if I told you, hey, Melissa, that idea that you have, 82% likely that you're actually going to finish that. what could that mean for your business?
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Really cool. Very cool. So what are some of the things that a business professional can expect from doing a program like this? When they walk away, are they going to have like this checklist, like a literal checklist of, I need to remember to do all this stuff that my brain just learned in these last 90 days? Or is it more like they've adopted this lifestyle, a lifestyle change? How would you describe that?
I love the difference that you put. Definitely a lifestyle change, because it's not a checklist. And one of the things I learned about reprogramming the mind is you don't remember what you don't remember. So a lot of the work that we do is around our own neuroprocessing. So if we can establish a new foundation of neuroprocessing for you, it will feel like it's been that way forever. But in reality, we made these course corrections to create such a strong foundation that procrastination is not something that affects you anymore. That when you have an idea, you know exactly how to fulfill that. So in 90 days, somebody can expect to go from, I am feeling overwhelmed, burnt out, I have all these ideas, and some of them get through to, oh wait, I know which ideas to actually work on. And I know how to plan them out. And I also am enjoying my life way more because I have zero self-doubt. We take care of that. We have tools and techniques, not just, I love to journal it out, but like, how can we shift this on a neurological level? So it is very much a new foundation of which people are leaving this program that graduates from a year ago are still operating by.
Nice. That's really great.
Yeah.
Another thing too that's baffling to me are other entrepreneurs that are like, yeah, I'm going to do this and I'm going to build this and I have all these ideas. And I say to them, but did you write it down? And they're like, well, no, I didn't write anything down. I'm like, do you have a business plan? They're like, well, I'm not really sure what that is, but no. And then I'm thinking, well, if you don't write it down, how the hell is it going to happen if it's not on paper or a whiteboard or, on some sort of Gantt chart or something? Like, how is it going to happen if it doesn't exist? Just like when you say, I did the work, but you're not showing it. So in my mind, if you're not showing me what you did, then you didn't do the work. You didn't put the work in. And if you're not writing it down, it's not going to manifest. It will not happen.
The best idea that you have is actually behind the idea that you're having right now. And our brains are on this like forever loop, that inner secretary who doesn't shut up. But it is impossible to organize your thoughts while they're still in your head. And when you write it down, your eyes are the first level of subconscious processing. So when your hand and your that little pen and paper meet each other, your brain sees through the eyes. Oh, wait, we've been heard. We don't have to stop. We don't have to keep that loop anymore. So then you'll start to make new connections. That's the biggest problem with visionaries is they're so good at ideas, but they don't write it down. And they stop their ideation when they have to start to take action because they don't know how. And they have never been taught how because it's just been assumed, oh, visionaries get there. Visionaries need to learn how to filter an idea so that it is actually accessible. Yeah, you got to write it down if it's going to happen.
Yes, absolutely. I forget the phrase. It's when you like stop in your tracks and I forget it. I've heard it before, but it's just when people get kind of overwhelmed and they get to that point where they could be productive and they could start with the execution and they stop dead in their tracks. And there's a phrase for that. I can't think about it right now because it's Friday night.
Yeah.
But so what are the 3 pillars of mastering productivity that you discuss in your course?
The 3 pillars of mastery of productivity. Productivity, again, mother skill, right? Umbrella, mother skill. To be able to master productivity, there's awareness. You have to understand what's happening right now. Okay. There's a reality check. how many hours am I working a week? Not just like at my computer. How many hours am I thinking about work? Which is working? How is my energy, right? This is still in the awareness. How's my energy? Is it neutral, drained? Am I still excited at the end of the week? Do I get the Sunday scaries? Let's have a reality check of where my energy is and how much money am I actually making? Time is money, right? Cool. Once you have the awareness, then we can go from there. So you have to have the awareness, and then you have to have the third pillar is the outcome, which literally means, what do I want? What do I want? A lot of us get caught in the how. And I think especially with marketing, we're like, oh, I've been told that I need to do this. I've been told that I need to do that. I should do this. You have to understand what you want. Oh, for Mackenzie, I want to be able to have a team that runs my business so smoothly that I can be the best mother I possibly can be, which means time with my family. So how can I inspire my team so they can make me money so I can spend time with my family? Okay, cool. So the second pillar comes in is like the action and the how, but to get there, you have to understand what you want. So with productivity, going through this accelerator, we have to understand what you want. And we have to make it tangible as an old fashioned that you can hold in your hand on a Breath of Fresh Marketing podcast that like, oh, this is the rhubarb old fashioned that I had on this podcast. The outcome has to be tangible. I want to be able to have this podcast be super deeply connected and bring me leads, right? So Melissa and I can have a relationship forever. And so Mack Motion can get some leads, right? That's the outcome. The how is what we figured out in between. So with productivity, you want to be able to be your own boss and get more done in less time. Okay, cool. How much money do you want to make? What is your energy like? And how many hours are you working in a week? Okay, cool. How can we get you there? We got to set up time boundaries. We have to set up delegation and processes and automation. And then we have to create the space for you to be creative so you can come up with new ideas and connect with new people. I think a lot of business owners forget that you constantly have to keep growing your lead circle because you have tier 1, you exhausted already. Tier 2, done. Tier 3, maybe. Tier 4, tier 5, they keep getting bigger. Mm-hmm. So you have to continue to reorient. How is tier 4 helping me get to my goal, my outcome? So with the productivity accelerator, what we really look at is your reality, your awareness, the outcome. What do you want tangibly? Cool. Then we're focused on the how. Time, energy, boundaries. What kind of optimization do you need? Time, energy oriented. And we literally practice the communication to get you there.
Nice. That's awesome. So switching gears a little bit. You also offer tarot readings for your clients. So what sparked your interest in tarot cards?
I was in a narcissistic relationship one year when I was like 22. That's what sparked my interest in tarot card reading. That was my first season in Alaska. And I had yet to be in the world of yoga and universe language. And I was in a narcissistic relationship that I wanted answers to. So I downloaded an app of tarot. And that's how I got interested.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'm so into that, and I'm into astrology, and like I'm totally into that, and yoga. So it's like all that. Just I love
yes.
That.
More.
I love it. Positive energy. Just feel good. And
there was a great book. My when I was 20, my roommate's mom suggested this book on astrology, which I still suggest to this day. It was written in 1973. How to Seduce Every Man in the Zodiac. It was very informational. It gave me a lot of insight as to the astrology of the time. But like the astrology plus tarot cards just set a whole new course for the spirit world.
You know, it's amazing what you find and what becomes a part of your life. I remember 1 year as a kid, all my friends went to camp, and my parents didn't send me to camp. It was just me, home. My siblings, they were all older than me, so they were off doing their thing, and there I was stranded. So I asked my dad to bring me to the library, and we got there, and I went off walking and exploring this massive library and looking at all the books. And I got to a section that said astrology. So I picked out a book and I opened it and started reading it. I'm like, oh, this is pretty cool. So what's your sign, by the way?
I am a Virgo, Sun, Leo, Moon, Leo rising.
Okay, cool. Are you September?
August.
August. Okay. My husband's a Virgo, by the way. So I start reading, and first, of course, I go to my sign. I'm reading about my sign. I'm like, yeah, that's so true. Oh, that's so me. Yeah. Okay, maybe not that. But then the rest of this, yeah. I'm like, this is really great. And I'm a Cancer, so I'm reading about that. And then I start reading about everyone I know and their signs. And I had this loose leaf binder with me. Like, remember those old like trapper keepers?
Right. Yes. A trapper. We called them a trapper back in the day.
Yeah. So I bust open my trapper. I got all this loose leaf in there, just empty, ready to go. And I start copying like word for word. And I'm making chapters, and I'm writing down all these notes from all these books that I'm looking at on every single horoscope. Then throughout life, I always used what I learned from those books as a basis of conversation on getting to know people. And there's nothing more intriguing to people than them hearing about themselves. So when I would talk to them and I would say, hey, and I get to know them a little more, and I'm like, are you a Libra? Are you an Aquarius? And then they're like, actually, I am. And sometimes I would get it right, and sometimes I wouldn't, but I would be close. And sometimes I could even guess their birthday and really bug people out. Like, out of all the days you happen to know my birthday, like, did someone tell you? No, we just met. So, and I remember that it really kind of helped with communication. And then people immediately are just, they're roped in. They want to talk to you. They want to hear everything you have to say because you're telling them all about themselves. And it's like really interesting. So I became so enraptured with astrology that it's just, all these years later, decades later, and I'm still as much into it now as I was when I was 10 years old.
I love how you said that astrology helps you communicate with people, because that is 110% how I've seen it as well. Like when I said like how to seduce every man in the zodiac, I was like very much in the dating scene, and I wanted to know how to communicate as much as I could with the man on the other side of the state so that I would have a favorable response. And when people love to be told about themselves, they just really want to be heard. Like the little human inside of the child that like, oh my God, I'm seen, I'm heard. Yes. How can I create that space for you in that sense? And I love that it is such a beautiful patterning of like, oh, and it also productivity wise, like my career house is in like systems and process, which makes a lot of sense of like how my brain works. Right. But being able to communicate with people in the way that they want to be communicated with makes it easy to connect with them. And how, whatever mechanism, whether it's tarot cards or astrology or love languages or your favorite pasta, whatever it ends up being, people want to be communicated with in the way that's easy for them.
Yeah, 100%. And it's funny too, because whenever there's a full moon, which I believe there's one.
Is today.
Yeah.
When we're recording is a full moon.
Full moon. And when people act all weird and crazy on the full moon, and people always say like, why is everyone acting so weird? And I'm like, it's a full moon. Well, what does that have to do with anything? I said, well, the moon controls the tides, and the tides is essentially water, and our bodies are made up of mostly water. So we're affected by everything that happens with the moon. So with the phases of the moon changing and having all that going on, it messes with our inner chemistry. And that's why I think some people really go batshit crazy when there's a full moon, or they just act like a jerk or whatever it is. But like, you'll notice these changes with people, and I usually figure when that happens, I look outside and I'm like, yep, yes. I knew it.
100. It's a spotlight, right? Like the gravitational pull is pulling what's needed for healing up to the center of your body, gravitationally speaking. And you're totally right. There's like, actual chemicals and hormones that are responding in our bodies because of the gravitational pull of the moon.
Yep.
Tenfold.
Cancers are moon children. So when there's a full moon, we're all like, yay, we feel great.
Yeah.
We have great energy. We're happy. We're positive. And then it's like, you notice the people that don't fare well with, full moons. And you're like, okay, stay away. You're toxic.
I love that this is a Virgo full moon that we're recording this on. And I'm a Virgo sun. So this is just, and I'm just in harmony right now.
It's awesome. So cool. So how does something like tarot play in entrepreneurship or productivity?
That was a huge, beautiful journey of like, how can I be creative and successful at the same time? And it was a huge thing to be like, oh, people like this shit. Mm-hmm. Oh, I can be a business process optimization genius and read tarot cards. Great. It was more of something that I had done in my own private space and done a lot of study on in my own private space that gave me so much nurturing that one time with one client, I was like, hey, I brought my animal spirit cards over. I can understand that you're having a little bit more of an emotional pull day. Why don't we pull some cards and just understand the energies that are going on? And with tarot cards, I always talk about that it is genuinely a weather prediction. It is an 80% chance that it is already raining, right? But it helps you bring English, like the literal English language, to the feelings that you're feeling. Because we are these ultimate translators. We're translating feeling into English or feeling into your first language, whatever that ends up being. And sometimes we don't necessarily have the articulation for that. Sometimes we desire validation. Sometimes we desire a deeper question. And cards, tarot, spirit, oracle, they help you give pictures so that you can translate what's happening for you. So it was genuinely one client that I had that I said, hey, I brought my cards over. Do you want to pull a card? Would that help you with what's going on right now? And I was able to translate for her what was happening, and it brought her such clarity. And I was like, okay, cool. So even in the Productivity Accelerator, depending on the team, because I have micro groups that go through it, I'll read a card of some deck. Hey guys, this is your energy for the week, especially with the goals and the outcomes that you're looking for. Here's the energy of the week, right? So it gives people some external, I like to think of it like when you go bowling, can't think of the word right now.
Lane?
Yeah, the bowling lane, but then the barriers that come up.
Oh, the gutters?
The bumpers. The bumpers.
Yeah. Okay.
It gives you some bumpers to bounce off of, right? So these cards and these ideas, when you hear some kind of validation in the way that you need to hear it, in the way that you need to be communicated, you have the ability to make better decisions for yourself. So integrating tarot really pinged a curiosity that a lot of my clients were very private about. They're like, I'm super spiritual, but I have a hard time integrating that into my business. How can I integrate my energy into my intellect? And tarot was a really effective way to do that. And it was also proof in the pudding that I can be a multi-six-figure business owner and read tarot at the same time. So it was proof in the pudding, and it also was weather direction and bumpers on the bowling lane for my clients.
That's awesome. Really cool. So, are you going to read my cards?
Can I go grab the box real quick?
Yes.
I'm going to go grab the box. You can choose the deck. I have an idea of what deck you might want, but I'll be right back. We have the box.
Nice.
Okay. Let's see. Yeah, we're going to do the animal. The animal. This is the deck, the animal spirit deck.
Cool.
Okay. So in our card reading, Melissa, what would be good for you right now? What kind of weather prediction or understanding do you desire?
Oh, geez. I don't know. There's so many different things. I don't
So what I usually help prompt clients with is usually you can ask for a general understanding of what's happening, especially with the full moon. Hey, what can I expect for this next season? Especially in business. I read a lot of tarot cards for business, right? What is my ideal client feeling? And also as a CEO, what do I need to bring into balance so that I can hit a particular outcome this month, right? So it's bring into balance, be aware of what's on my side so that I can be able to hit the outcome that I need, right? And it can be as simple as to be able to hit the outcome that I need. What do I need to bring into balance? What's on my side? So what sounds juicy for you?
Yeah, I guess what's in the future business-wise, like directionally, where we go.
Directionally, beautiful. Can you just tell me your middle name?
Danielle.
So as I do this, it's fun to explain. The way that I imagine this for anybody who's interested in like, how do I read cards? What does this look like? I imagine I go up in my mind to my giant library, like the Library of Congress has everything ever of Mackenzie Sweeney. And then I go out the back door into the alleyway, like Harry Potter. And there's a giant alleyway of everybody ever. And I just go look for Melissa's name. So I asked for your middle name and I was like, oh, this is Melissa's back door. And there are two like spirit angel guards outside. And I'm like, hey, what's up? I'm Mackenzie. I'm here with Melissa. Can I come inside? I'm gonna just open a book and I'm gonna read it and it's gonna come through my voice, but it's your stuff, right? So I'm kind of in your library translating a book that I'm picking up. Yeah? Great. So direction of business to come. Well, first of all, so many things. There's like the idea of like, okay, first of all, you have to decide. The first thing that came up was a fish in reverse, right? So fishes go with the current, but to go with the current, you have to decide what current you want to go with, right? It very much reminds me of Nemo, like the squirt and the turtle, like we're in the OAC, like we're in this really strong current, but you have to decide if you want to hop in the current. You have to decide when you want to hop out. Right now, that's already feeling like, okay, cool, direction of the business, hop in the current, and then you need to know when to hop out. Hop out of whether it's not a hot trend. It feels very much like a coach, like a mentorship, like a guidance perspective. You have to know when your intuitive action is the right answer versus somebody else telling you what to do, right? Cool. How can we help you? How can we help you make that decision? You've already made this kind of decision in the past. This is the elephant. The light's really bright, but this is the elephant. How do you know when is the right time to make this direction decision for your business? Because you've already felt these feelings in the past, right? You already know those tingly, you might not know English, you might not, put an articulation, write them down, but you feeling wise, you're like, I know when it's time to move, or I know when it's time to go left. I know when it's time to go right. You also don't need to explain yourself. There is such a wisdom in the nurturing that you provide that people are not going to question the direction in which you go. How do we know when you get there? How do we know when it's time? What would you feel that one? You feel like this is very new level, new devil. How do you know when it's the right time to hop out? When you feel like you don't know what's happening, when you feel like a kid again, or when you feel like you're like new in the space again, you're like, it's that nervous freshman feeling. You know what I mean? You're like, oh, that's when to make the decision. Is when like, oh, this is new. Time to go. Time to shift, right? That's the time to make the feeling. So the last thing we'll do is like, okay, cool. What energy is on your side? How do you know you're supported in this space? Energy, animal, ooh, sparks of innovation. When you start, this is the firefly.
Ooh.
When you start getting those like 2 a.m. ideas, when you're like, honey, wake up, to your husband, you're like, no, I just had this breakthrough. Or when you're playing with your daughter and you're like, I wonder if this will work. Right? These random sparks of innovation are truly the message, your signal that like, ooh, I'm in the OAC, I'm in that current, I'm in that space. Okay, got it. Those random sparks of innovation, even if it sounds silly, or even if it sounds like something that you've done before or tried to do before that didn't work, it'll work now. It'll work now. And I always like to look at the bottom of the deck. Deer, yes, the deer and the nightingale. Motherhood, nurturing, singing your song. If marketing was a card in the most authentic space, the nightingale is the songbird. It is the creation and the articulation. It is the music of what's happening inside, right? So really the outcome of like leaning into the nurturing motherhood of not only your beautiful daughter, but also of your business allows you to sing this like pure, authentic song.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I always love doing this.
I'm like, waiting to hear the explanation. Like, this is pretty cool. Very nice. Like that. So what new projects or aspirations do you have on the horizon? What's next?
I have this new project that is in the beta phases right now. We'll probably roll it out in the next 3 to 6 months.
Okay.
It's super cool. It actually was a serendipitous connection. I have an SMS like coaching platform where you literally can text me, and this is me texting you back, accountability and productivity. And this was a platform built by these 2 genius developers from Stanford who found me on TikTok. They're like, hey, I love what you do and I want to be more productive. So I'm going to build you this tool. And if you fill it with your genius, it's going to be amazing.
Wow.
So we're creating this tool so that other coaches as well and other service providers have a formula of holding their people accountable and creating a really accessible space for their lead generation. So at a price point of anywhere from $10 to $30 a month, they can have this connection with their leads to pull into their lead funnel. So we're beta testing this out and creating a cool formula and creating cool templates, especially with the 86 to 92% rate of fulfillment that we have on the tasks for our students. We're going to use that formula and then they're going to copy paste that so other coaches can just put in their genius. So that's a super cool project on the horizon. And then the other cool project is I'm going to hopefully, fingers crossed, be pregnant this year. That's the other cool project that we're working on currently. That's a huge desire of mine and has been for a decade. So when it comes to business, it's really just honing in my team so that they're in love with the sea, so they can run the ship, right? I can course correct when we need, but so I can continue to bring people on in a way that is so beautiful and authentic and more people in love with the sea. But the biggest project right now is that fun SMS coaching platform. And then finishing off the Ideal Day series on TikTok, which is all about the chronotypes we talked about and identifying those peak times during the day. But those are our 2 main projects. And then, being a mom is always up there.
Yes. Well, that will happen for you. I feel the energy and the vibes. Sending baby dust your way.
Thank you. I got a great bonus daughter. I'm actually sitting on her bed right now. She's 13, and she's pretty amazing. So I got a little bit of it. We're gonna sprinkle some more fairy dust on it.
There you go. Well, listen, it's been awesome having you on the show. Thank you so much. You're doing amazing things, and I hope many wonderful things are in your future, and I know they are. So, again, your business sounds phenomenal, and I think you got a great thing going, and a lot of people can really benefit from taking your course and your mastery course. And I think that's awesome. So social media handles, you have?
Yes. Both my Instagram and TikTok are the.productivity.coach. I'm on both of them all the time. I have also a free Facebook community that really truly is just me coming in for free trainings. Productivity Mastery on Facebook is our private free Facebook group where we do 30 to 60 minute deep dive trainings on anything from general to very specific productivity to business optimization. So that's where you can find me hanging out when I'm not with my students.
Nice. Well, I am going to check it out. So thank you so much for being on the show. It was a pleasure having you. And you'll have to keep me posted on everything new and exciting.
Melissa, this was such a fun conversation with you. Thank you so much for this beautiful connection. And this podcast is such an incredible platform. And your insight and your expertise and your connection truly are unparalleled. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. All right. Well, be well and have a great weekend. And I guess I'm going to take some advice from you, and I'm going to be productive, and I'm going to take some breaks.
Take those rests, girl. Take it.
I will.